First of all, let's go to these two under compute section because we want to create two different security groups. One would be assigned to my front-end web instances and another one will be assigned to my back-end databases. So I go to my security groups dashboard and let's create the first one for our instances. Let me assign a name to it, EC2 instances-SG. And I just assign same in the description or include in the description. Now you have to make sure that you choose the same VPC for these groups, instances, and databases. As of now, I will not include any of the inbound or the outbound rules and just click on create. And let me assign a tag to it. And that's it. So I can just filter it right now. So this is my EC2 instances-SG. This will be assigned to my front-end instances or web applications or web servers. Now, let's click on create security group, and this group that I'm going to create will be assigned to my backend instances. And this is the main one because this security group will be assigned to my backend database at the time when I launch that database. So I can just assign a name to it. I just name it as my DB instances-SG, and I include same in the description. VPC would be same. As of now, I will not include the inbound or the outbound rules. Click create and let me search for it. So these are two different groups that we have created. And I want to make sure that I assign a tag to my database group. So these are the two different security groups that we have created. The topmost will be assigned to the front-end web instance or web servers, and the back-end databases will be assigned this group, that's DB instances-SG. So we'll focus upon this one only. I go to my DB instances-SG, go to the inbound, and I choose edit. Now in the protocol, I will include any of the database traffics because I want to make sure that front-end instances or the web applications should be able to access the back-end databases. Now in my case, I'll be deploying a MySQL database. Hence, I'll choose MySQL as the protocol type. It uses port 3306, and in the source, I will choose custom source. And I will specify EC2 instances-SG. This is the security group that will be assigned to my front-end web instances. So if I choose this or if I include this rule, this means that this will ensure that my front-end instances can access this database. No other instance in my VPC can access this database. So I have to assign the EC2 instances-SG security group to my front-end instances so that they can access the backend databases. I click on save. So it's very important that before you can deploy your database, you need to manufacture and you need to configure two different security groups. One will be assigned to the front-end web servers and the second one will be assigned to your backend databases. Then we go to the services and let's go to the RDS under database. Once we go to the RDS, the second step that we have to do is that we have to create a DB subnet group. So I go to my subnet groups on the left hand side and click on create DB subnet group. Now what's the purpose of this group? This DB subnet group is a collection of multiple subnets which will contain your databases. So I can just assign a name to it. I can just name it as DB subnet group, and I can include same in description. I choose my default VPC and I can choose two different subnets that are associated to two different availability zones. So for example, I choose AP South 1A and this is a subnet which is linked to this availability zone. I click on add subnet. Then I choose AP South 1B and I choose its subnet and click on Add Subnet. So these are two separate subnets of my default VPC in Mumbai, which are associated to two different availability zones, AP South 1A and AP South 1B. Now, what's the purpose behind manufacturing this DB subnet group beforehand? The purpose of this DB subnet group is that before you can deploy a database instance, you group your subnets in such a way that one of your subnets, which is linked to 1AZ, will contain your primary database instance. And if you by chance go with the multi-AZ deployment, then the standby replica DB instance would be launched inside a different subnet that will be associated to a different availability zone. So that's the purpose. You group your subnets together so that you make those subnets eligible to contain your primary and standby replica database instances. I click create. So these are the two things we have manufactured or we have created. The first one is the security group and the second one is the DB subnet group. Now the time has come when we can go ahead and deploy a MySQL database instance. So I go to my databases right now, and as of now I don't have any database in Mumbai. I click on create database, and these are the 6 different engine options that you can choose from. You have Amazon Aurora, MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. Let's go with MySQL. And if you want to choose only those options that are eligible for the free usage tier, then you can check this option. Otherwise, you can uncheck it. I click on next right now, and you have to choose any one of these 3 use cases. In my case, I will choose dev and test because we're just using it for testing purpose. Click on next right now. We have to specify the DB instance details. First of all, we have to include license model. Now for the MySQL DB engine, there's only one license model. That's the general public license. DB engine version, as of now, we're using 5.7.22. If you are using something else, if you want to go with some other engine version, you can choose any one of them. In my case, I will stick to the default DB engine version. Scrolling down, this is the DB instance class, which is there by default. I will change it to db.t2.micro because it is free tier eligible. In that case, if I choose this instance class, in that case, I don't have to pay for it. Now, this is a very important part of our configuration. That is multi-AZ deployment. We discussed about multi-AZ deployment. It's a high availability and failover option which is used by RDS. Now, this is disabled by default. If I choose the first option which says create replica in a different zone, it will deploy the primary database instance in one AZ and the standby replica in a different AZ. As of now, I will choose no, so that I can show you that if you don't choose it at the time of deployment, you can implement this afterwards. So you can choose the first option and you can start using multi-AZ on the fly, or you choose no and you can implement this feature afterwards. The storage type will go with the general purpose SSD and we just allocate minimum of 20 gig of storage. I just disabled the auto scaling. This is the estimated monthly cost, and then I include the DB instance identifier. Let's name it as my DB instance, and I can assign same as my username and the password because we're just doing this for testing purpose. So I'll keep my username and password as simple. I click on next right now. Now we have to include some advanced settings. I choose my default VPC, which will contain the front-end instances and my back-end databases. I choose my DB subnet group that we have pre-configured, right? So it is extremely important that you pre-configure the DB subnet group before you can launch your database instance, because on this page, you don't get the option to create a new one. So I choose the same one that we have pre-configured. Then public accessibility, I can choose yes, because this database instance will be launched in my default VPC in any one of these public subnets, because I've chosen my default VPC and all the subnets in my default VPC are the public subnets. So if I choose yes, in that case, I can access this database over the internet. Availability zone, I would choose to no preference. VPC security groups. So I would choose the existing one, that's the DB -HE. That's the same group that we have pre-configured. Database name, I'll send the database name, port 3306. You don't have to change the DB parameter group or option group. I will just disable the IAM DB authentication. And the next thing that we have to focus upon is the backups. See, whenever you go with any RDS database instance, it comes under the managed service category. This means that everything starting from backups, maintenance, patching, upgradation, failover can be automated. So by default, the past 7 days backups are retained, and you can go up to past 35 days maximum. So you can retain up to 35 days of automated backups in the form of automated snapshots. If you put it to 0, then you disable the automated snapshot feature. In my case, I would choose 7 days, and you can choose a backup window. Now, why you have given this option to choose a backup window? There's a purpose behind that. Reason being, whenever your database instance has been backed up, in that case, the performance of your database instance is being impacted. Your database slows down. So in that case, if you don't have multi-Z option enabled, you choose a backup window, and you can choose any time frame. For example, I can choose 1 a.m. and I can choose the number of hours. So for 1 hour at this time frame, if my database instance slows down because the backup is being created upon that instance, or the backup is being extracted, in that case, it doesn't impact the performance of the entire application. So I can choose some time frame or any time or duration in which, even if my database instance is not performing properly, my operations are not impacted. If you choose no preference, this means that your database can be backed up at any given point of time. Now, you should choose no preference if you have multi-easy option enabled. Why? Because if you go with multi-easy, then the backups are being retrieved from the standby replica database instance. This means that your primary database instance is not impacted. It is operational, it is up and running, it's in active state. So if you go with the multi-easy and you turn on the automated backups, then the backups will be extracted and retrieved from the standby replica database instance. In that case, it is safer for you to go with no preference. So in that case, if you don't choose a window, that's fine. So I choose no preference. Now I'm choosing no preference in my case because just after I deploy this instance, I will change the state of this deployment from single easy to multi-easy. Then I can go with the enhanced monitoring, but I will disable it. I can export my logs so that I can just use it for troubleshooting. Maintenance. Now this is the next important part of this configuration. Since this is a managed service option, you can also choose the auto minor version upgrade. This means that if the minor versions are available, then in that case, the upgradation of this database instance can be automated. Now it is advisable that if you don't have multi-Z, then you choose a maintenance window. For example, I can choose Sunday at 2 a.m. and I can choose the duration. Like for example, in my case, it's 3 hours. Now, why it is safer for you to choose a maintenance window? Because the thing is that during maintenance, your database instance can shut down, it can reboot, it can restart. Sometimes, in few cases, it can freeze. So there are few chances that your database instance can become unavailable at the time of auto maintenance, because it will reboot, it will restart, it can go in a frozen state. So to be on safer side, you choose a maintenance window. So I'm choosing Sunday because I know that on Sunday, my database instances are not working to their, I would say, full potential. Might be on Sunday, I don't receive a lot of traffic from the front-end users. So on Sunday and Saturday, my databases are not functioning to the highest level. So in that case, on Sunday, if my database instance becomes unavailable for 3 hours, in that case, it doesn't impact the performance of my entire application. So you can choose a maintenance window. However, if you have multi-easy option enabled, then you can choose no preference, because with multi-easy, you get a benefit. You get an extra edge. The benefit that you get is that if you use maintenance, auto maintenance with multi-easy deployments, then your standby replica DB instances are being upgraded first. So maintenance will be applied to the standby replica DB instance. And then after maintenance, the standby replica DB instance are being converted to the primary DB instance, a primary database instance. In the second stage, your primary database instance is upgraded. Maintenance is being applied to the primary database instance, and thereafter, those primary database instances are being converted to the standby replica database instances. In a nutshell, if you have the multi-easy option enabled and you go with the auto maintenance mode, then the performance of your database architecture is not impacted, because the maintenance is applied to the standby first, then it's been converted to the primary database, and then the maintenance is applied to the primary and it's converted to the standby replica. I choose no preference because after I deploy this instance, I will convert it to the multi-easy deployment. As of now, I will just disable the deletion protection and click on create database. So you can see that your DB instance is being created. Now it may take a few minutes for this instance to launch. It takes up to 20 minutes for the database to be up and running. If I just go and click on this view DB instance details, you will see that the DB instance status is creating. It will change to modifying, backing up. It will go through multiple stages and then it will be available. So this entire process can take up to 20 minutes depending upon the instance class and depending upon the DB engine version. So within 20 minutes, I should see this instance become available and it will be up and running. I pause this video, and once this DB instance status changes to available state, then I will show you that how you can convert this single easy deployment to the multi-easy deployment. And also we'll just simulate a failover and see that how multi-easy comes into action. Welcome back. Now, as you can see that the instance is up and running and the state is available. This means that this database instance is launched completely. And if I show you some of the details, some important details to look into, the first thing that we have to focus on is the endpoint name. So if let's go to connectivity and security option, this is the endpoint name that will be used by front-end web applications or instances to connect to this database instance. And if you go to configuration and we scroll down, this is the multi-easy status of this database instance. It is set to no because when we launched this instance, we disabled this option. You have two options to implement multi-easy. Either you implement multi-easy at the time of deployment, or once you launch your database instance, you can change that database instance from single easy deployment to multi-easy deployment. So I'll show you that how you perform that or how you go through that process. What I will do is that I choose my database instance I'm already there. I go to modify at the top right hand corner. Now, once I go to modify, you will see that I have this option to change the status of multi-AZ deployment. I choose yes right now, and then I scroll down and I click on continue. Now you can see it says potential performance impact. What happens is that whenever you change the state of your database instance, or you convert your database instance from single AZ deployment to multi-AZ deployment, then there would be few processes running behind the scenes, including your database instance will reboot, it will shut down, it will come back up, because what happens behind the scenes is that RDS will manufacture a standby replica database instance from this primary database instance. So it will manufacture a snapshot from the primary database instance and restore that snapshot to the standby replica. So in that process, your primary database instance will reboot or it will shut down. So there would be some performance impact. You have two options to apply this modification. Either you can apply it immediately, or you can apply this during the next scheduled maintenance window. I want to apply it immediately, hence I choose the second option. And you can see that there will be some potential unexpected downtime because my primary database instance will reboot, it will restart. So in that case, my primary database instance will become unavailable. I'll just go ahead and click on modify DB instance, and you will see that it will change from single AZ deployment to multi-AZ deployment. Now, if you see the status, it is set to modifying. It takes up to 20 minutes for this entire process to be completed. And after 20 minutes, the status of this database instance will convert from single AZ deployment to multi-AZ deployment. I'll pause this video once again. And once the entire process is completed, I'll resume and show you that this will be converted to multi-AZ. Welcome back. As you can see that the instance is in available status. We click on this instance and just check its details. If you go to configuration and see the status, the multi-AZ is set to yes. This means that we have successfully converted this DB instance from single AZ deployment to multi-AZ deployment. Now, let's see that if you just reboot this database instance, this primary database instance, will this multi-AZ help us to fail over to the standby replica database instance? Because if I show you the availability zone of this instance, let's go to connectivity and security. My primary database instance is running in AP South 1A. This means that if I reboot this primary database instance to simulate failover, in that case, my multi-AZ will come into action and fail over to the standby replica database instance, which is running in a different availability zone, which is AP South 1B. So let's do that. I choose my database instance, go to actions and click on reboot. I choose reboot with failover, click reboot. So you can see that the status is in rebooting state. This primary database instance is still rebooting. And after a few minutes, you will see that the availability zone will change from AP South 1A to AP South 1B, because behind the scenes, once this instance is rebooted and multi-AZ comes into action, then it will switch over to the standby replica database instance running in AP South 1B. Now this entire process will take up to 15-20 minutes. I'll pause this video once again, and once this entire process is completed, I'll show you that the availability zone will change from 1A to 1B. So let's wait. Welcome back. Now it took 3 to 4 minutes for this entire process to be completed, and you can see the status is available because it was rebooting at the time when we paused this video. And if we show you the availability zone, it has changed to AP South 1B. This means that this process has been implemented successfully. It's been completed and multi-ISA has come into action. And if I show you that what happened, let me just go back to monitoring, and you can see that if we just go to logs and events, let's go to logs and events, you will see that behind the scenes, it performed everything. So if I just go to this log, you can see that it is saying apply modification to convert to a multi-EasyDB instance. So you can see in the logs that what's running behind the scenes. So whenever you simulate this failover by rebooting your primary database instance, within few minutes, multi-ISA will come into action. It will just switch over to the standby replica database instance and will change your availability zone that you can see that on your console. So this completes the RDS and multi-ISA failover, and we have seen that how you can modify a DB instance to be a multi-ISA deployment and how you can make use of this multi-ISA as an option. Thank you so very much.